SLIM. My name is Mary Bowler, and I'm with the Northwest Kansas Library System. I'm the regional consultant for the youth, school, and also do the talking books. I'm not from Kansas, I'm from upstate New York, so I actually got my degree. My first degree was in education from New York, and then I went to Texas, and that's where I got my library, my information science degree there. And never thought I'd be in Kansas, but it's wonderful here. And we have an employee that works with us currently that is part of the SLIM, or graduated from this program. So I know a lot of people that have been through this program, and I've been with the system now for 7 years. So we've seen a lot and words here. I've been on the William Allen White Committee, so I've been to the campus quite a bit for doing that too. So pretty much that's it.
I'm Stacey Mitchell. I primarily work at Kansas City Public Library in the Business and Career Center, so it's kind of I thought this would be a good opportunity to come and share any knowledge that I've seen over the years. I did not graduate from Emporia State, but I did my program through San Jose State University online, and I finished last fall, so yay me.
My name is Robin Newell, and I'm the library director here in Emporia at the Public Library. Been there for 2 years. I got my master's degree from University of Missouri at Columbia in 2007. My connection with SLIM is partnering with the school as much as possible. We've got 2 practicum students this summer. We'll have our first grad assistant this fall, and we're really looking forward to working more and more with ESU SLIM in the future.
Great, thanks. All right, so cover letters. I guess, how important is it to address the cover letter to a specific person?
It's the first opportunity that you have to show your personality. Like, a lot of times people want to go overboard in a cover letter, but I think you just need to make it very concise and short and share a little bit more of your personal background and things in that. They're going to read your resume. Like, a lot of times people want to put everything into their cover letter that says, I graduated from here, I did all this. It's like, that is the one opportunity to get a little bit of, your personality come out in that, the way that your style of writing, humor. If if that's your personality, then it's all right to show that in there, because people are going to read that first and truly go on to look at the resume. So some people are like, oh, that's just nothing. The cover letter is just something I have to do. It really isn't. It's pretty important where we're at. We've, every time we've had to interview for people or any of that, it's pretty important to us. We try to look there and see if they'll be a good fit with what they seem to be like, or so I find it to be very, very important.
I agree. I think it should be more like let your personality come out. Don't rehash your resume and your cover letter, because that's the point. Kind of address some of the maybe softer skills you have, like communication, teamwork, collaboration, that kind of thing, and maybe some projects that you worked on addressing those issues. As for a specific person, addressing it to a specific person, I would say, well, I've sat on hiring committees at some other jobs, and it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I never really thought that was a detractor, since a lot of things are going through HR anyway.
Yeah.
Before
a lot
they
of
hit
times
the
just
hiring
write
manager.
Dear Selection Committee.
Yeah.
That always kind of covers everybody. You're not leaving anyone out. So
Right. I don't think it's a big deal to have a generic opening like that. You're looking more at the content than really who you're addressing the letter to anyway.
And I'll have to add that it depends on the organization that you're applying to. In a smaller organization, it shows me that you've done your homework. If you addressed it to the person who's the director, if you know that library doesn't have an HR department, and you're going directly to the director, you're going directly to the person who's going to be reading it, the board president. If it's a public library, it might not be the board president is, if they're the people that are going to be screening for directors or whatever. But to me, just adding that name shows me that they've gotten on the website, they've done their homework, they're looking beyond what was offered in the job posting. Right. And as far as for me in a cover letter, I'm not interested so much in their personality as why they think that they're perfect for the job that they're looking at. I want to know why they think that I should hire them. And I expect a cover letter to tell me that, and then to make the ask at the end of that cover letter to say, I think I'm the best person for this job. I think you should hire me. When can I expect to hear? Just be very, for me, very direct. So that's why I look for in a cover letter.
Okay, my next question is, what are the best tips for writing a cover letter? But I think we've already kind of answered that. Any last thoughts on cover letters before we move to resumes?
I do agree with Robin. When she says that it's a very good idea to do your homework. So if you've had some experience with programming or done anything that library that you're applying to, or that regional system, whatever you're applying for, if you've done some things that are familiar to them and that they're doing similar programming, that's a good time to bring that up as well, because like Robin's saying, you want to see if it's a fit. I don't know that I would be quite as direct as Robin is asking for, so that's a good tip I wouldn't even have thought of. Even when I've written them or I've read them, I don't know that they've been that direct, but that's certainly.
And I think it depends on what again, the organization is asking for,
Right.
because I've had cover letters that just wanted to know a little more, about me and the job, and then I've had situations where the job wanted to know how I met these criteria.
Right. Yes.
So
what the
that cover
posting is.
letter, where it usually would be one page, that cover letter for that job was like 3 pages, because by the time I validated everything that they
Right.
were looking for, it was a lot longer cover letter. But I think it's important to know what they're asking for and to answer their questions.
Right.
That's exactly what I was going to add to that, is speak to the description they post. You should definitely get on their website. If you can talk to people, know as much as you can, but speak to their job posting so that what you are sharing about yourself shows alignment with what they're seeking. I would add that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the good length for? One paragraph, 2
I
paragraphs?
personally think a page.
I
If it goes over a page, I don't think you're going to sit there and read it
Right.
anymore. And I don't want to see one paragraph, because to me that shows that you're not really that interested, so it is one of those things. Tell me enough, but don't tell me everything about you. I'm going to, do an interview. I'll do at least a phone interview first, or, you know what I mean? I'll look at, some people check references first, some people check references after they meet. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. And sort of to add as well that, a lot of them are online now. So you have to keep in mind that, your cover letter may be an addendum, like they just ask you to add that to it and to add your references. But then you'll be asked to answer all these questions, and they may ask you everything about, okay, did you do some kind of work study, if you're a graduate right now, or for a lot of people coming through like the library program, I found in the past that a lot of them had other experience. Some of you younger ones, that's not all there is out there in the library science world. There's a lot of people that have been educators or have been other things coming back. So you want to give all that information as well, your background leading up to you going to get this degree. Because I got my degree in 2009 at 40. So it's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody came out with it at the same time. So when I say tell about yourself, as an employer, I want to know that you've got some background and some history. A lot of times people want young grads, but a lot of times they want to know that they've got some experience, like Robin is saying, that will fit. And we don't have to train you all the way up to, some people want new trainable people, and some people want just, you have enough to get, to get us started, because we're usually off and running. We don't have a lot of time to get you up to speed. So we're hoping that you're up on the current trends and things. So it's something we look at.
And one thing I don't want to see is I don't want to see a templated letter that you downloaded off the internet and cut a copy. I mean, it's fine to use a template, but by the time you get done with that letter, it should look like it came from you and not from a cut and copy, and it should be specific to the job, because I've gotten what I call blind applications where they're just sending them to every library that they can, every public library in the state of a certain size. And it's pretty obvious to me that cover letter that they're sending has nothing to do with our library and everything to do with them just wanting a job.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why we were saying kind of personality.
Yeah.
That's where that kind
Because
of
you
comes in.
feel like that job is a fit, or you wouldn't even be applying for it. So if you're going to do that, you might be better off kind of going in person to all of these small libraries than you would be sending out these cover letters. Because sometimes we've had people actually come in to our facility asking if we're, you know, going to be hiring and things like that. So like you're saying, if this is going to be this blanket thing, you might as well go in person. That would look better than just this, you know, letter that doesn't really fit that library or whatever type of job. It doesn't always have to be a library either, you know, that you're applying for. There's a lot of other, we serve a lot of different entities, academic, there's just a lot of other things, schools. So.
I have a question. So if somebody were to contact you about the job position before submitting their application, would that make you view the applicant any differently at all? It wouldn't make them look any more favorable or less favorable in your eyes if they were to like contact you for some more information about the position?
Yeah, I think each of us probably has to speak to what we work, you know, we're very rural. We're in Norton, Kansas. So a lot of people are like, where is Norton, Kansas? So for us, we don't get the applicants that we wish we could get. We have a wonderful system. We do a lot of work, a good budget, but people don't want to come to the west, you know, of Kansas. It's like there's not a lot there. So for us, we do want people to, you know, we don't want to have to explain to them that, okay, you're coming to a very rural little area. We want you to have done your history and, you know, looked up things about our regional system and all of that. So if you contacted us, I think we would look at it favorably because we're like, right, somebody really wants to come here. So you don't know. And sometimes, like Robin is saying, you do want to do your homework as to what that library or that job is and what it entails, and anyone you might be able to speak to that has ever been out there or been associated with them, because you can talk to a lot. I mean, it's all a very small, pretty tight-knit little group of people in Kansas, so it is not as big a world as it might seem. So.
Not just Kansas. Library world is small.
It's small, yeah, that's true too.
We have a lot here in it, the more we know.
Right.
I've worked in Kansas City, Kansas. I've worked in Topeka.
Yeah.
I've worked in little tiny libraries in Nebraska, and it's a tight world. And I love getting calls before I get applications to say, blah, blah, blah. You know, tell me more about this, because it may not be a good fit for them. And I would rather they know about it first than waste my time and their time applying for a position.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess kind of off of that, I've heard in the past that it's a good idea after about a week after you submit your application to call if you haven't heard anything. Is that a good thing, or is that viewed as like pestering?
I think it depends what kind of environment you're applying to, like academics. It's going to take them forever to go through that system. It's going to take them maybe even months.
Right.
So.
And usually when there's a posting there, it's given a timeline. Like for us, we will post, you know, upwards of 4 weeks. So we're still receiving applicants. And one phone call after a week, I don't think would be, you know, in our view looked at, you know, any, like just discriminate against you in any way. But now if there were 2 or 3, that may, because we've had that happen before. And I can't personally say that I did, but we have a whole hiring committee. So I've heard others say, do you know how many times that person called? I'm like, oh, you know, and I feel bad for them because I don't think they knew, you know, that maybe one is perfectly fine, just to make sure that it arrived, because there's nothing wrong with that, saying that I just wanted to make sure that you received it and that there isn't any additional information you need. If there is, like I said in my cover letter, just let me know. So I wouldn't view that negatively at all. So
I would say one's good.
yeah.
having just come off a hiring situation where I had one individual contact me 3 times.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get an interview. I mean, that was just too much. I mean, if you know the job's posted to a certain date and you haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks, you're probably not going to get an interview, because we don't contact every person who submits applications.
Right. Now we do, but again, we're a lot smaller than some of them. You guys are a lot.
Does Kansas City, Kansas, do they answer every application?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not really on the hiring side there, so I don't know how it works. But I mean, I remember being an applicant going through the system, and we employers really need to be better about stating that too on their job descriptions, like approximately when you might hear back, deadlines, and that kind of thing. So it's also on their part.
Yeah, and even when I've applied before to larger areas and things, I've always at least received an email that said, thank you so much. We found someone that was, you know, a better fit. And, you know, that's not to deter you. It's just to encourage you. Don't be deterred much like the publishing world, you might get, 20 that say, oh, no, we don't want you, but there'll be that right fit out there. So I think that's the thing I didn't really ever give up. I just kept going.
And we always respond to interviews in that way. I mean, if somebody comes in and interviews with us, we respond, we tell them you'll be hearing from us within a week or so, and then we respond to that person. But if they don't have an interview, we don't respond to every application.
Right, resumes. A lot of people get creative with their resumes. Are you for or against this trend, or kind of give us?
Depends what you mean by creative. I mean,
Well, like when you go on Pinterest and you look at all the different, there's lots
Yeah.
of colors and there's lots of little graphs showing like I'm 70% fluent in Spanish and things like that. Pinterest is very fascinating for resumes.
Right.
I mean, I think it's important to make a resume distinctive and make it stand out.
Right.
But to what extreme?
Right, you want to show yourself to be a professional. I think that's the one thing that I would say. If you're going for a position at an academic library, you do not want something that has all these colors that looks like that you're, trying to get into the, elementary library. I mean, if there's a very different thing that you're trying to do, it depends on what that job is. I mean, for those people at an elementary school library, yeah, they might think, well, this is beautiful, she's creative, or he is, or whatever. But I think the most important thing to me is always to show yourself as a professional, because we're having to continue to build this right now, even in this state, is to continue to try to let people know who we are and what we do. So I would just say, please continue to try to keep it at a high level of professionalism. That would be
10 to 20 seconds. That's how much time they spend looking at your resume. 10 to 20 seconds. I don't want to see color. That's just but it's just like, if I'm hiring for a children's librarian, you can wow me at that interview. You can bring my portfolio. You can read to me or whatever. But when I get those resumes, I really want to see exactly what you're talking about. Was professionalism. I want it to be clean, easy to read, clear, organized.
not some trendy font. Just stick with it.
Yeah.
And again, I'll just kind of add to that. One of the things that we do as a faculty is review our adjunct faculty's CVs, resumes, when they come to teach for us. And I can tell you, as a group, the color and it's not looked on well. It's not. Everyone sat around the table and said, "What is this?" So I would say, again, I mean, this is more of an academic environment, but I definitely would say this isn't the time to show your creativity in your programming, but stick with the basics.
Right.
With your,
Or I would say, Sandy, know your person you're applying to, because
well,
maybe
enough.
there is somebody out there that just really loves that. Because I agree with Amanda. There's about 3 years ago, the whole thing was just like, you should have color, you should have your picture on it, you should have and it was just really being talked about a lot at conferences, and I was getting resumes that I was going, is this a graphic novel or is this a resume?
Facebook profile.
Right. I mean, because it was like, so, and I'm looking for professionals. So.
Okay. So how should you tailor your resume based off of, like, in contrast or in comparison to your cover letter? If you have a cover letter and a resume, you want them to look similar. What that question would be. How should you tailor your resume?
So like they talk about tailoring cover letters to the job. We talked about this. Should you also tailor your resume, like including, like say you have student jobs that are applicable to some jobs you're applying for, but not to others? Like, should you tailor your resume in that way?
Well, definitely.
I would say so. Yeah.
I mean, you have to, don't put anything on your resume that's not relevant to the job.
Right.
And, highlight your achievements, not just your job duties,
Yeah.
because nobody cares about that. I want to know what you did to make a difference in your job.
That's exactly right. I mean, where they say like skills and things, there's what I always feel like that top part is where, again,
Your skill summary.
right,
area.
all of the, highlight all the things that you accomplished, that you did. It doesn't matter in what venue you done it, you went out and worked with another library, or you did volunteering, or whatever you might have done. You doesn't have to say, I volunteered at this library, just say, we did this, or this is an initiative that we began, or just list all of the things that you have done, because again, like Robin's saying, 10 to 20 seconds, and I'm pretty much thinking it's the same thing. That you want to get, your highlights across right in that first little, like a little bulleted thing. I always feel like then I can read through it quickly and see that it's all there, and then go on to do your education. Obviously, I'm going to know you're going to have a master's degree, I'm hoping so, and then down the rest of it. But again, keep it professional. I wouldn't say to put a lot of bells and whistles in there, just to keep it simple so someone can read through it.
And keywords too, because with all the online application systems, they filter for keywords. I mean, the HR department, before it even gets to the manager, sometimes they're looking for specific keywords. So that's where you match up your job description with your resume to make sure you have some of those, keywords, trendy words, whatever they're looking for.
Well, and the first word of every bulletin point should be a verb, performed, it should be showing us action of what you've done, managed, implemented,
Yes.
that type of thing. So that's that. Using those verbs at that very beginning of the sentence shows that there's action in this resume. That's what I want to see. One of the things that I don't see a lot is I don't see a lot of volunteer information. And sometimes in a public library, that's very important because it shows community connections, it shows customer service. So where you might not think it's relevant to the job, it depends on what you're applying for. Academic, maybe not so much, I don't know, but in a public library, that's something that we do ask for in the interview is, tell us about any community involvement you have. So I would definitely, especially what's going on in public libraries right now, where we are becoming community centers, that would be a really point in your favor to have some type of community involvement.
I agree with that, and also think about the transferable skills, like maybe you don't have direct experience instructing in front of a class or in that kind of capacity, but maybe I'm going to be volunteering as a tutor at Literacy Kansas City, and so that's kind of some instruction. So think of crossover areas where you have some skills that you can bring from something else into a job.
I think that any aspect of the library world, it's all about collaboration. So any community, other community agencies that you worked with in, like you're saying, in any kind of volunteerism or whatever you might have done, we like to see that, a lot of collaboration, that, you understand that we don't exist unto our own. We have to work with all of these other agencies. So it's a biggie for us.
Well, my last question I have is, what's the difference between a resume and a CV? When should you use each?
A CV definitely is just it's highlighting your presentations and publications, as well as it's more, I think, more academic in nature than a resume, but I don't know, I think the line's kind of blurry there.
I would agree. I just think that sometimes you again have to look at the job description, because if they're asking for that, do not, don't call yours a resume, because that's right there a red flag to us that, to me it's not, but you really didn't look over the job description to see what they did require of you, or if you're doing something online. And again, if the job posting is saying that you'll be doing a lot of trainings and you'll be doing these different things, then you may want to use the CV, because then you're showing all of the trainings and things that you have attended, ones that you did yourself. So that, to us would be a biggie, because we have very separate jobs at our regional system. And one of ours is a curriculum coordinator. So that is someone that is, hosting all of our workshops. So if you were applying for that position, I wouldn't want to see that, this is what I've done and this is my little resume. You'd want to see more of, okay, I've got this experience being in front of a group, and, just like you're going to go do this in a presentation, that's wonderful. You'd want to include that. You don't want that just at the bottom, not highlighted saying, well, these are my additional skills way down here, because that's a very important thing, that you've been able to stand up in front of a new group of people and do something like that. So I would say highlight it.
So if you already have a resume written and you want to transfer it to a CV, is that easy to do? Just kind of take out your action words like yes or no? Like,
I've never written a CV, so I don't
Yeah.
know. So I
Yeah,
need
it's hard
somebody who's
I
written
can
a
speak
CV.
to this one.
Yeah.
We switched about 2 years ago, so I got my doc 2 years ago and was in IT previously, so lived on a resume and had to make the switch. And I would say it's not easy, but it's just a different way to look at it. I know I sourced several websites for comparison, to understand the differences and similarities between them. And certainly as my CV develops, as I sort of live on the professional side of the street, I drop off certain resume-based things because, you know, especially for someone my age coming into a new field, I bring a lot that doesn't directly align with the CV. So I just used bulleted points for as I discussed, you know, past job things. You know, these are my accomplishments here. These are my accomplishments here. So I kind of inserted those resume type items in the CV, and then, you know, went listed through all of the publications, presentations, workshops, blah 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 blah, and added those at the end. So it's just different, I would say. It's just a different lens through which to look at it. But examples everywhere, plenty of examples online. Just, you know,
It has a
be
graph.
discerning in your selection of the sites that you
Right.
seek out. Yeah.
You might not have as many of those as a grad student, you know what I mean, just coming out of the program. But you will, like you're saying, it'll sort of shift if you want to apply for something different, that will sort of shift in things. And I'm in the same boat. I, you know, can tell from what I used to write, you know, it's like, this was a school I went to, you know what I mean? And I was magna cum laude, you know what I mean? You think that those are the big things. And it's like, well, at that stage, yes, it is, you know, to you, and then you think everyone else. But then it becomes more, what have you actually done? You know, what is your experience? What have you brought to the library world? What initiatives, what things? So we're saying kind of similar things, but you would show that more, I think, in a CV than it lends itself a little more easily to being able to show all of that than.
Going off of that, do you recommend putting your GPA on your resume when you're just out of school like we are?
3 years.
3 years.
And then drop it. Because in 3 years, you should have other things on that resume that are bright and shiny. So
really only include that if you need kind of a
If you kind of need a
number.
boost,
Yeah.
kind of, if you don't have
Yeah.
as much experience, you want to highlight your education,
right.
your projects, the things that you accomplished while you're in school or volunteering or other kinds of things, except, you know, professional experience.
Yeah, I
But
think
make sure it's a good GPA. Don't put a
Yeah.
2.5.
I think I still put my undergrad GPA, but I've never listed either of my graduate degrees GPAs.
So, got a question. Regarding, so you get these CVs, cover letters, resumes, and let's say they're high quality, but they have a lot of spelling errors. How will you view those?
Out the window.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
right away,
Sorry.
that first thing that we said was professionalism. So to me, if I can't read the first sentence and I find punctuation or any of that, it is a huge deterrent. So always let someone else, you know, edit it. If you have to pay someone to edit it for you, do it. It would, you know, it's huge. And for us, it's huge. I can't even
So
imagine.
it's truly a game over, right?
It would be for us, I think. 'Cause
I mean,
there's too much
that's
to
just
keep. Yeah.
basic.
Right.
I mean, if you can't spell, if you can't put sentences together, I mean, what does that say about you?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you're great at that. But like I said, you have to know, and in this world, you have to know the person that in your office that is great at that. So we have several people that isn't their highest skill. So they might be like, I just wrote this newsletter. Can you please proof it? I mean, some people give it to every person on our staff and say, proof this and get it back to me. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, that's not your skill set. That's fine. It wouldn't be a deterrent in that effect, to hire you, but it would be if that's the first thing that we see of you. That's your representation. So we're like, this person didn't even care enough to make sure the spelling and punctuation was correct. That's what I would get out of it, that you don't really care and it was just thrown together.
or you may not be able to communicate well in English.
That's possible. Yeah, and that's,
If English is not your first language,
right,
you all also have to take that into
Mhm.
consideration.
right.
So,
I think you said something critical there also, where you said you just pay somebody if you have to.
I mean,
I
yeah,
think
the
that-
whole thing to
that's-
me is that you're trying to represent something. So I understand what you're saying about it not being your primary language, but if that's the job that you're applying for, if you were, perhaps going to do something, like being bilingual or in something, then you could just let the person know, because they're not going to know that reading the cover letter and resume. There's no way for them to know, oh, well, this wasn't your first language. I don't know how you get that across. So yeah, I would just make sure that you seek out whoever's really good at it, and let them edit it for you.
Is there like a page length limit for a resume? I know that CVs can go on for days, but resumes tend to be a lot shorter, and I don't know, is there like a max of like 3 pages, or keep it down to 1 page, or?
I think it really depends what experience you have. If you have enough to justify a 2-page resume, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, like I said, it really should just be relevant. If it's not relevant, why are you making it 2 pages? So.
I agree, front and back, more than 2 pages is too much. I mean, if you're a new student and you get it all on one page, that's great. If you've got a lot of experience, then 2-pagers probably. Again, 10 to 20 seconds. Those people are going to go through those things, and they're looking for certain things. They're looking for degrees. They're looking for words. So make it easy on the people that are reading the resumes.
And I feel like the one thing that a lot of times, like the front and back thing for us, I can only speak to, what we've seen, but we like it when we can find the sections. When you do like a 1 page, sometimes you've got this tiny little font that is, all smushed together. So it isn't a bad thing to have 3 pages, you know what I mean? But if you're going to just highlight each of those sections so that someone reading through it quickly could say, here's the education, here's, the skill set, here's, her overall, what things that she thinks she brings to the position. So that you can just see them quickly. So I don't like the ones that are all smushed together, and I'm having a hard time trying, going through it with highlighter.
Got another question. So, can you tell us about, like, let's say, usually you have read maybe thousands of resumes over your career and maybe thousands of cover letter, but there's usually like one that stands out that you will always remember. Can you give us a little bit of color on what was that resume or what was that cover letter that you still remember?
Good or bad?
If you,
I think the ones that I remember are the ones that are on the heavier weight paper. It's obvious it's been printed on a laser printer, very crisp, very to the point, easy to read, lots of white space, good margins. Those are the ones that stand out for me, that have the information that I need at the top to contact. And I've seen some bad ones. Or I won't say bad, but I'll say poorly written, poorly formatted, poorly thought out.
Well, how do you, talking about formatting, like if I'm on my computer and I send it electronically, how do you keep it from changing formatting? I
Save
mean,
as a PDF.
yes.
Right.
Definitely. If you have a lot of formatting and highlighting tables and charts or whatever.
Quite frankly, everything should be PDF if you're
Yeah,
emailing.
Right, right.
I mean,
And there's a great deal of it, like I said, it's online now. There may be some that are still, there's a lot of them that are offered online to do. So that's a little different because they'll print out the way that they have it set up on their web
and
page.
because I'm old school, I don't want to see a Google Doc. I don't want to see a link. I want to see a PDF that I can see on my screen. That I don't have to go through Google Docs. I don't have to call the IT guy to come down and explain to me why that link doesn't work. And this just went on in our last hiring thing. This was really interesting. They said the Google Docs, and I couldn't read the Google Docs. And the IT guy had a struggle with getting through to the Google Doc.
Yeah, don't
So-
make it hard on
So we
lawyers.
we finally just emailed the person and said, you have to send us these in PDF format, and she did. So, and I think part of it is they want to be seen as progressive, to use Google Docs. But
See, it's different for us. If we knew that you,
have Google Docs
it's
as
just
well.
the world that you want to enter, because I'm gonna say right now, we've had ones that, you know, underneath where you give your name, address, cell phone number, all of that information, you know, I'm not sure how the SLIM program works, but like when I did it, we had a portfolio. So I had a link to my portfolio that I spent 120 hours to finish. So I wanted these people to see what I could accomplish. So I had that link right under there for them. And to answer your question about the one that I remember, I do remember the one that got my attention is when I could see humor. There was one of the young women that had sent it. She wasn't afraid to be herself in that first paragraph. I didn't feel like she had read something online that said, this is how you format it. She's just like, you know, my name is, I would love to be in, you know, this job. I've always wanted to be. To me, that's what I was saying earlier about the personal touch. I want to know who you are in that first page. You know, I'm not going to know everything about you, but if I can get just a little glimpse as to what your personality is like and who you are, that meant a lot. And to all of the ones that are on our committee, that one stood out for everyone. They were like, oh, she seems so sweet, or so, you know, whatever. It's like, yes, how nice. So and I can say that maybe the spelling, you know, wouldn't have been so worried about it if I could see that, you know, personality in that writing. So that's why I said the cover letter for us is just about everything. I feel bad. Yes.
I have just one question. There are templates out there about what order you should put the items. Like I'll be submitting CVs and I'm like, why? They know I have the degree, you know, why is that up front? And what, do you need to follow the suggested orders or
I think on a
of
CV
sections and titles?
I think on a CV, I think your education is
I was gonna say, I would say right here is our professional. This is our best opinion,
I
right?
mean, for me, yeah, you stick with this standard. You know, you conform to the standard because that's what's being sought. Another thing I did, I was remembering, you know, you said there are templates. Another thing I did was I went to some of the professors I had read, and frequently you'll find their CV on their university site page. And you can take a look and see how they're structured. But creativity is a wonderful thing in its appropriate place. But you really don't have, all you have is this page between you and this prospective employer. And so I say, you know, draw them in with your great use of white space. That struck me of all the comments. And we just hired a professor. Actually, we hired two. And I chaired that committee, and we got, you would think at this level that it would all be perfect, but we got everything from, oh my goodness, we just got everything in terms of professionalism on these documents. So I would say, yeah, those things, keeping the appropriate white space, following the CV format to the letter, being so correct with your language, with your usage, with your punctuation,
Right.
And then bringing yourself into that and doing that alignment. I mean, that's for me, and that's what we looked at as a hiring committee as we went through the CVs that we looked at was,
And
you know,
even though they may know you have that degree, in our case, a lot of times it's bachelor's preferred or master's preferred or that type of thing. So we don't know what education that individual has. So I do like to see education listed first, even on a resume.
Right.
Because it lets me know before I even start reading down through there if that person meets the minimum qualifications.
I guess one of the reasons I wonder is because I work with foreign languages, and the travel and the language proficiency is an important part, but usually on CVs that ends up at the very end. And
You may be able to sneak it in though in other areas,
Mhm.
you know, throughout.
Mhm.
That's what I would try to do.
That's what I would
Just
try
get
to
that,
do,
yeah,
too.
try to get that in whatever workshop maybe that you attended, or
Right.
you know, you could write a little description. You know, usually they want to know the things that you've attended or what you personally presented, but maybe you could put a little something in there saying, oh, and this included. That's what I would try to do.
So I put in my CV some highlights. So for my undergraduate degree, I had published I had writing was my undergraduate, and I had published 2 pieces. And so I listed that little factoid, just one little line. I got certain awards as a master's student. I listed that. And so that might be a little place where you could say, you know, my fluency and blah, blah, and blah, blah helped me. So you could sneak it in there and still follow that correct format. Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. Do you guys have anything else you want to have?
No, I brought a handout. I put a little packet together if anybody wants it, just some resume tips, action words, that kind of thing later. So if you want to stop by.
Yeah, I did want to follow up on that because, you know, where it highlights those words. There's also those words we don't want to see, those buzzwords that people think you want to see and one that you don't, because then it does look like it just came off of, you know, someone else's and you just filled in a few of your own little.
I'm a people person.
Yeah, I'm a people person.
I just love to read.
I know. I would love to read. I mean, we've never hired anybody based on that. I just want to add that. It's wonderful that you do, but that's what everybody thinks, you know. Oh, yeah, we sit around all day reading books. That's exactly what we don't do.
All right.
So we'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back and do the second panel.